What's up y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be doing an eyeshadow palette ranking. This is long overdue. It has been a while since I've sat down to do one of these, but I have 21 eyeshadow palettes sitting right here in front of me that I have thoroughly tested, created multiple different looks with, and I am ready to rank them and give you my final thoughts. Now, in order for an eyeshadow palette to end up in one of my rankings, I like to make sure that I use every single shade in that palette, but in all transparency, there are 3 different palettes in this ranking that I did not get to every single shade. It simply comes down to I did not have the time, but they are palettes from brands that I know I have used before. I am very familiar with the formula, so I feel confident in my final review and where I put them in this ranking. But keep in mind, this ranking is just for fun. This is nothing serious. This all comes down to my personal preferences and formula, color story, and how I like to do my makeup. So if your favorite palette is not my favorite palette, that's okay. Let me know how you would rank them down in the comment section. I love to hear y'all's thoughts and have that conversation with you. Also, there are 21 palettes in this ranking, but there's only 15 slots. So if you're new here, the way that I like to do my rankings is if there's a bunch of palettes that came out like as one collection, I rank them as a collection. It just makes sense in my mind to let you know how the collection performs as a whole, but then I do rank those palettes within that ranking, if that makes sense. If not, you'll understand when we get to it, but I will have all of these palettes listed and linked down below in the description box, as well as everything that is on my face. So per usual, if you're ever curious about anything in any of my videos, always check the description box. I squeeze as much information as I possibly can into that tiny little space. But now that we have all that out of the way, without further ado, let's go ahead and begin this countdown. Coming in at number 15 is the Unearthly Cosmetics All I Ever Wanted palette. This was the brand's early Halloween mystery palette, and it is definitely giving me all of the spooky vibes with the color story. But when you open this up, you get this really pretty 12-pan all shimmer color story. I do like the selection of colors in here. I think they're very pretty. The quality is there with this palette. I don't get fallout, creasing. It doesn't emphasize texture. They're very smooth. They do have a good reflection to them, but I know the brand is capable of more. So for me, in the end, after I really kind of got into it, it fell just a little bit flat. I don't think they're bad. I just think that this is a little pricey for what you're getting, even though the shadows do average out to, it's like $7 and some change per shade, which isn't bad. But when you're getting a highly anticipated mystery palette from a brand that is known for their gorgeous, shifty, sparkly, reflective shades, and you get something like this, it's a little bit disappointing. Now, I told a lot of y'all in the comment section of the video where I swatched this and created some looks that if I had seen this palette before I purchased it, I don't know if I necessarily would have, and I definitely stand by that. I'm not disappointed in my purchase. I don't regret my purchase, but I don't know if it's something that I absolutely needed. I feel like I have a lot of other palettes in my collection and a lot of other singles that just outperform these and are a little bit better of a quality. So again, like I said, this is not a bad quality. It's not a bad palette. There's nothing wrong with it. It just fell a little bit flat, so that's why it's coming in at number 15. Coming in at number 14 is the Geller Wildflower Wishes palette. I did receive this one in my July BoxyCharm, and prior to this palette, I had never tried a Geller eyeshadow before, but I have to say I am really impressed with the formula in here. It is very creamy. They go on really nicely. They blend beautifully. The shimmers in here are a little underwhelming. You're not going to get a lot of punch to them. They don't have flips. They're not super reflective, but they do have a nice shine to them. They go on very smoothly. They last on the lid. I don't get creasing. They don't wear off or anything like that. But the reason that this color story is going where it is because this falls very light and mid-tone for me. I don't feel like we have a whole lot of variety in here. All of my looks came out very soft and very similar, even though we do have like this pop of orange, this purple, and this pink over here. That's your depth in this palette. So that's why it's coming in where it is, not because of the quality. Actually, the quality in all of these palettes is pretty good, but this one really kind of came down to color story for me. Coming in at number 13, we have these little guys from Smashbox. These are the Always On Mood Board palettes. They did release 4 different color stories. I just picked up the 2. I have Bougie Vibes and Earthy Vibes. Let's go ahead and start with Bougie Vibes because this was the only one I had planned on picking up, but it turned out to be my least favorite of the 2. So First of all, the color story is beautiful. I love purples. I was definitely gravitated towards this one, but my issue is we only have 3 mattes in this palette, and 2 of them are these shades right here, and they are so insanely similar in color and tone. It was unnecessary to have both of them in this palette, especially since there's only 8 shades. But with that being said, I have created 2 different looks with this palette, and the second one did come out better than the first one, because in the first palette I tried to use this one down here like a matte shade, and I had a lot of issues. It didn't perform as well as I wanted it to, but once I treated it like an actual satin shade, I had a really beautiful look. I enjoyed it. I didn't have any issues like blending or creasing or patching or anything like that, and I like the look that I created. But let's move on to the Earthy Vibes palette, because this one turned out to be my favorite. This was the one that caught my attention after I kind of scrolled through, and you can see why. We have these 2 absolutely beautiful pops of green in here, and I really like this palette. First of all, we have 5 mattes and 3 shimmers in here. I love a matte shimmer, a matte heavy palette. If it's got both shimmers and mattes in it, I definitely feel like you can get a lot more variety in here. But the shade selection is beautiful. You have this really dark forest green shade. You have 2 mid-tone browns, one that is definitely warm, one that's a little cool leaning. You've got this brightening up shade, and then you have this lighter shade up here, and I like the selection of the shimmers in here as well. There's a lot of variety in this palette, and again, I didn't have any issues blending, building, patching, skipping, anything like that. Nothing creased, but I will say that the formula in both of these palettes is just kind of mediocre. There's better palettes out there, especially at Sephora and Ulta, that perform better. You're gonna get a little bit more bang for your buck, but if either of these color stories call to you, these aren't bad. You wouldn't be disappointed. At number 12, we have the Natasha Denona Mini Rose palette, and I think this is beautiful. I really like the shade selection in here. I like the color story. This is like my perfect everyday neutral palette. If I was a makeup minimalist and I only had a few things in my collection, I could see myself getting a ton of use out of this. The quality is there. The mattes are so creamy. They are very blendable. They look beautiful on the lid. The shimmers in here are really nice as well. They're not as sparkly as some of the shimmers that she has given us in more recent palettes, but they're still very beautiful on the eye. But the reason I'm putting it where it is because I feel like I only get one look from this palette. That's based off of how I like to do my eyes. I have tried leaving out this shade, leaving out this shade, and I always feel this urge to add it in because I feel like my makeup look is incomplete. So that's kind of where I'm putting it where it is. Also, keep in mind all of the shades in this palette are repeat shades. So if you have the retro palette, you have 3 of the shades in this palette already. So something to keep in mind. So while I do think this is absolutely beautiful and I do love it, I just can't put it any higher because I don't have the variety that I want, but the quality is definitely better than all of the palettes preceding this one. Number 11 is going to go to the Plumeria Dragon palette from Sugar Drizzle. The packaging is absolutely gorgeous. This palette actually came out last year, but I got it in my June Ice Cream Beauty box, and I'm so glad I did because the color story in here is beautiful. I don't know why I didn't pick this up. There was probably a reason. I probably talked myself out of it and said I don't need it. But nevertheless, I am so happy to have it now. The shimmer formula in here is beautiful. Sugar Drizzle is known for their shimmer formula. They have more affordable shimmers. They are beautiful, they are shifty. They have a lot of all shimmer palettes and I do really enjoy them, but they have a lot of mattes in this palette as well. And I love the matte formula. I really enjoy the selection of mattes that we have in here as well. I feel like there's a lot of variety. You can definitely get a lot of different looks. Yes, they are going to be very pink and berry leaning, but if that is your color story, that is your jam, I don't think you'd be disappointed in this palette. I think you would really, really love it. But I did get a little bit of fallout with, I think it was this shade and this shade, but it just kind of fluffed away. My under eyes were powdered, so I didn't have any issues getting rid of it, and the shade didn't leave like a trail of shimmer on my cheek, so it didn't really bother me. But I didn't have any creasing, I didn't have any blending issues. Everything went on like a dream, and the looks that I have created with this palette are absolutely gorgeous. This green shade in the middle is so beautiful on the lid, but I'm happy to have this palette. I really enjoy the quality of it, and I think it's beautiful. Coming in at number 10 is the Titanium Fox's Poppy Storm palette. This was actually the brand's first release, and Poppy Quiet, which I have already ranked and reviewed for you, was the brand's second release. But this palette is absolutely gorgeous. It is deeper, it is darker. We've got some grungy tones, a couple of jewel tones in here. It is definitely giving me all of the fall vibes, but for me, this is a companion palette. I find myself struggling to get a lot of depth and dimension with this palette. I find everything to be very deep, dark, and smoky, which is fine. I definitely think there's a time and place for that, but it's not what I'm going for on a day-to-day basis. But I find this one pairs really beautifully with the Poppy Quiet palette. Like, you can get so many looks when you combine the two palettes together. So while I don't think there's anything wrong with the quality, the mattes are beautiful, the shimmers are beautiful, I do like the looks that I created with this palette, it's going to be more of a companion palette for me. So that's kind of where it's falling. Coming in at number 9, we have the Coral Crush palette from Catrice, and y'all, this is absolutely beautiful. The quality of this palette really did blow me away. I didn't expect a whole lot just because this is a more affordable brand at the drugstore. You can get them on Amazon from their website. You can even get some Catrice off of Ulta, but I didn't expect a whole lot from it. But I will definitely say that the formula in here rivals some high-end brands. Like, these mattes are so creamy, they are pigmented, they are very easy to blend out, and they're buildable. The pigmentation is beautiful in these. This green shade looks so beautiful on the lid. That was kind of my breaking point. Like, that was either going to make or break this palette, and this shade performed absolutely beautiful. Now, the shimmers in here are not the most punchy shimmers. They're not going to be the most reflective, but they are very beautiful on the lid. They go on really nicely. They're very creamy. They do have some reflection to them, but they last all day. And for the price point of this palette, you absolutely cannot beat that. So this really impressed me, and I ended up liking it more than I thought I was going to. At number 8, we have the Let's Pop collection from Gloss Gods. This was my first time ever playing with the brand. They've been on my wish list for a really long time. I was just waiting for that perfect release that really sucked me in, and they did it with 6 monochromatic 5-pan palettes. These are absolutely gorgeous. They are cute, they are slim, they are colorful, but the formula in here is so good. I'm so upset that I didn't know that earlier. The mattes glide on, they blend out beautifully. I don't get patching, skipping, or fallout. They are pigmented, but they're also buildable at the same time. But the shimmer formula in these palettes, that's where it's at. But let's go ahead and do our ranking within a ranking. So at the bottom is going to be the Peach Pop palette. None of this is due to quality. This all comes down to color story preferences. And for me, the issue with this palette is this shade right here. There's something about it that I just don't like the way that it looks on my skin. It's a me thing. I've had other people tell me it looks very pretty, but there's something about it that I feel like it kind of clashes with my cool undertone. But these shimmers in here are absolutely stunning. Coming in next is going to be the Pink Pop palette. And again, I have an issue with this shade right here. It just doesn't quite go with this hot pink shade over here. So while I like either these two shades together or these two shades together, I feel like when I put all 3 of them together, it just kind of has like a very strange look in my opinion. But again, beautiful quality. The shimmers in here are beautiful. Next, we have the Green Pop palette. This one is absolutely beautiful. I love like this mint green in here. We have this deep forest green, but we have 3 shimmers and 2 mattes in this palette, so it kind of limits me on what I can do as far as looks go. The difference in my looks is really going to come down to the shimmer shades in here. So that's kind of why this one is falling where that is. These next 3, these could go in any order, but this is where I have them today based off of how I am feeling. So we have the Blue Pop palette, and this one is stunning. I love the tones in here. This shade in the middle, this is the one that got me. This is like this absolutely gorgeous like blue to green to teal flip. The most beautiful, smooth, reflective multi-chrome out of all of these palettes. I love the blues in here. We have this navy blue, this dusty blue, this bright blue. This is a beautiful cohesive color story, and I really, really love this one. Then we have the Nude Pop palette, and this one is just a beautiful like grab this, throw them all on your eye, you're out the door, you're done. I like the tones in here. I like the color selection in here. This one in the middle is this really pretty flaky like multi-chrome shadow. It does look like it's going to emphasize texture and make a big mess, but as long as you either have a tacky primer on your lid or you spray your brush before you put it on, it actually doesn't make a huge mess. It stays in place. I don't get any fallout. It doesn't get everywhere. You just kind of have to be careful when you wash your face, but this is a beautiful neutral palette, and if that's what you're looking for, this is a really good one. But coming in at number 1 in this palette within a ranking, or this ranking within a ranking, is going to be the Purple Pop palette. Nobody's surprised. Absolutely nobody is surprised, because look at how gorgeous this is. This has got 3 matte purples, 2 shimmer shades, and I absolutely love it. I can use every single shade in this palette to create one look. I can really kind of take it down, do like one and dones. I can kind of do these 2 shades, even these 2 shades, and get something a little more subtle. I do really enjoy this, and again, the quality is beautiful in these palettes. They did a really good job with this collection, and it has definitely put the brand on the map for me. Alright, so the last 7 palettes could 100% be rearranged at any time. These were really hard to put in a specific order because I love all of them equally, but it comes down to what I'm gravitating towards most at the moment. So coming in at number 7 is going to be the Blend Bunny Longing palette. This is a gorgeous cool tone color story, and it has the beautiful Blend Bunny formula that we know and love from the brand. It is absolutely stunning. I love the shimmers in here. I do like the tones that she picked for cool tones, but I will say I don't feel like we needed both of these rows right here. I do feel like they're just a little bit repetitive. So while I do like the palette and I do love the color story, I feel like the other palettes ahead of it are a little bit more curated. So there's nothing wrong with the color story. There's nothing wrong with the quality of the palette. It really comes down to personal preference and me being nitpicky, because I have to be nitpicky when I'm ranking these palettes. But overall, it's absolutely beautiful. You won't be disappointed if you are a lover of Blend Bunny. This is another hit and a beautiful one from the brand. Number 6 is going to go to the Cosmic Beauty Cool Trolls palette, and you're probably surprised that this is number 6 because this is a very me color story. We have pinks, we have purples. These are the cool tones that I enjoy, but right now it's just not what I'm gravitating towards. I am still enjoying all of the bright neon, like summery fun colors, but then the other half of me is like slowly graduating into like the grungy fall vibes, and this is something that I will really reach for in like the colder months. I say colder months, we don't get colder months down here, but it's something that I really reach for in like the winter months. So I'm not generally somebody who lets these seasons dictate how I do my makeup, but there's something about a cool tone palette like this and pastels that they really kind of call my name at certain times of the year, and right now it's just not quite doing it for me. But this is beautiful. The quality is there. If you have tried the brand before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The quality is unbelievable for how affordable their palettes are. This is a beautiful one. I absolutely love it. I'm sure I will get a ton of use out of this one in the more winter months, and this is one of the palettes that I didn't get to every single shade in here. I did not get to, let's see if I can remember, this shade right here, and I want to say this one up here. Those are the only 2 that I have not used in this palette. Everything else performed absolutely beautiful. So again, we have another hit from Cosmic Beauty. Coming in at number 5 is going to be the Gourmand Girls Peach Perfect palette, and this one really surprised me. I didn't expect to love this one as much as I do, not because of the quality, because the quality is there, the formula is beautiful, but because this isn't a color story that I would generally gravitate towards. But I have absolutely fallen into the whole Pantone color of the year this year. I am loving the peach eye looks, more specifically these 2 shades paired together with one of these shimmers all over the lid. I have absolutely been loving it. I like the greens in here. I like how we have like a little bit more like muted and desaturated tones. This bright orange down here, just like the one in the Gloss Gods Peach Pop palette, is a little hard for me to pull off, so not my favorite. I haven't really dug into this one too much, but everything else in the palette I really do enjoy. This is beautiful. If you've never used Gourmand Girls before, they have a beautiful formula. They are very creamy to the touch. they glide on, they practically blend out themselves, and they do a really good job. The artwork is always adorable, and this is a beautiful palette. I am so happy to have it, and I'm glad that I gave it a good chance because I have fallen in love with this palette. At the number 4 spot, we have the Nomad Cosmetics Keys Beachy and Peachy palette, and this is giving me all of the summer vibes. I love the artwork on the front with the 2 flamingos, the palm trees, the drink, the key lime pie. It is giving me everything I want for the summer, but the color story on the inside of this one is absolutely beautiful. We've got this one like 9-pan palette over here with all of your bright, fun pops, and then you have your more kind of grounded, like pastel-y shades over here. Absolutely beautiful. I love the color combinations that I get with this palette. This is another one of the ones I did not get to every single shade in here. There's only one shade in this palette that I did not use, and it is this shade over here. I just never found a look that it kind of like went into. I kept going into this one for the outer corner and kept forgetting about this one, but this is absolutely beautiful. I love the theme of this. I love the color story of this. I think this might be my absolute favorite palette from the brand. I think it has passed up the other ones like tremendously because I want to play with this palette. I really had to tell myself, you need to put it down, you need to play with other things, but the quality in here is beautiful. The mattes are fantastic. The shimmer formula in this palette is probably the best that the brand has ever done. I feel like their shimmers just get better and better and better, and I really enjoy this palette. I think it's beautiful. Again, I like the theme, I like the color story, and I love the brand as a whole. They're a travel themed brand, and they always have some sort of charity that they give back to when they create their palette. So absolutely beautiful. Alright, so we are down to our last 3 palettes, and these 3 were really hard. These are definitely interchangeable, but this is kind of where they're falling as of now. So coming in at number 3, we have the What's Up Beauty Dragon Eye palette. This was a treat to myself for my birthday. I have longed after this for such a long time. It has always been sold out, but when they announced the last restock, I set an alarm on my phone. I was on there and ready to go, and this is absolutely stunning. The packaging, let's just take a moment to appreciate the packaging. I love dragons, I love fantasy, I think this is beautiful, but let's get to the color story because that's where the good stuff is. This is so beautiful. I love the matte selection in here. They are definitely neutral, but they're those cool tone neutrals that I love. So we have the purples, the mauves, the dusty pinks in here, but then the shimmers in here are so yummy and so beautiful. They are reflective, they are smooth, they look beautiful on the eye. I don't get any creasing, they don't emphasize texture, I don't get fallout, and I have gotten so many compliments every time I have worn this palette. I've had several people stop and ask me what's on my eye, and when I tell them, they're like, I've never heard of that before, and they just kind of walk off, and I'm like, okay, well, I could have told you about it, but it is what it is. But the hype is real with this palette. It is absolutely stunning, and I'm really upset that I waited this long to play with it, but it's gorgeous. This may be one of my favorite neutral palettes in my collection. To me, this is a neutral palette, but it's beautiful. I love it, and I've had so much fun playing with it, and it really makes me want to pick up the other 2 palettes from the brand, and it makes me excited for what else they have planned for us in the future. At our number 2 spot, we have the Cosmic Beauty Neutrals palette, and this is absolutely gorgeous. Yes, it's a neutral palette, but it's a neutral palette with a twist. Definitely something different for the brand. You've got these really pretty like neutral browns up here. You've got some greens with like a pop of like a mustardy yellow. You've got your purples down here. You definitely have a lot of variety, but if you are a neutral lover looking to kind of dip your toes into color, this would be a really good place to start, because while you do have the pops of colors, they are a little bit more subdued, a little bit more subtle. They're not like bright and out there, so it's not quite so scary adding a little bit of color into your look, but these are beautiful. This shade right here, this multi-chrome that has like this like green to yellow to gold to copper flip, is absolutely stunning on the lid. Their shimmers are always beautiful. I don't know how they give us such a fantastic formula at such an affordable price point, but they do. I love it. I'm here for it, and I think this is a beautiful palette. I love the variety that I get from here. This is one of the palettes I didn't get to every single shade. I didn't get to this one and this one right here, but I have no doubt that they're not beautiful on the lid. I'm sure they perform absolutely stunningly on the lid, but this is a beautiful beautiful palette. I've really been enjoying it, and if I want just a quick, easy, neutral look, this has been the palette that I've been reaching in for. Or if I want like a deepening up color, I have really been reaching in for this black right here. This is such a good black. It is very pigmented. A little bit goes a long way, but it's a gorgeous black, and I think everybody needs a good black in their collection. But I really enjoy this palette. I think it's beautiful, and it really makes me excited for the brand. I'm always excited for the brand, but this is a stunner. All right, so we are down to our final palette. It is the one that I am wearing on my eyes today. Let me know if you figured out what the number one palette was before I actually revealed it. But coming in at number one is going to be the Beauty Bay Botanical palette. This is absolutely stunning. I have really enjoyed playing with this, and it's another brand that has a beautiful, beautiful formula at an affordable price point. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't care how they're doing it. Just keep it coming because I absolutely love it. The color story in here is very beautiful. I definitely have these shades somewhere in my collection, but I don't have them like arranged like this in a specific palette. I think they are beautiful together. They complement each other really nicely. We've got warm tones, we've got cool tones. I love the layout of their palettes. They are very aesthetically pleasing to me, and I've really been getting a lot of use out of this one as well. This is another palette I have wanted to reach for over and over, and like I said, I do have it on my eyes today. I actually have on this shade, and a little bit of this shade, and then on the lid I have this and this on the inner corner. Absolutely beautiful, very simple, kind of everyday, very soft look, but you can definitely amp it up. You can get green, you can get purple, you can go very neutral. This is a beautiful palette. This is the second palette I've ever played with from the brand, and I'm not disappointed. I love this palette. I'm really excited to see what else they have for us in store in the future. I just hate that the palettes like this are limited edition, because once they're gone, they're gone. They don't come back, and I really wish they would hang on to them a little bit more, because there have been so many palettes in the past that I really wanted, and I just wasn't quick enough. So just keep that in mind. If there's a Beauty Bay palette that you want, set your alarm, snag it when it comes out, because sometimes they sell out really fast and they don't come back. But absolutely gorgeous. I love this palette, and I'm happy to have this at my number one spot. And that is going to complete this ranking. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Did you pick up any of these palettes? How would you have ranked these palettes? What is your number one palette as of late? I want to know it all. Let's have that conversation. Light up that comment section. And as usual, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one. Bye.